Alert Russian satellite to hit Earth within 24 hours. I'll play his thing.
Decay, then this thing could come down in one big chunk and hit Earth. And really, they have no idea where it's going to hit. It does bring up, past events of satellites making their way in here, striking Canada, huge cleanup messes that have to be done to get these fragments picked up because a lot of them are radioactive, and you never know what's aboard this. They're saying it was a reconnaissance satellite. As you can see here, the altitude in miles is dropping significantly. It was up above 110 when I first hopped on here and glanced at it. Now it's, as you can see right here, about to drop below 100 miles in the altitude. So we'll use the 100 as a marker. By the time you guys see this video and you check it out, see where it's at. Roughly quarter till 9 p.m. EST here in the United States. This is a look at the map as well as where it's at, and you can see as it's making its pass now over Saudi Arabia. It just made its pass over the United States, and it's going to make its next pass over toward the west coast next time it comes around. Now you can hit the 5-day predictions, and it's going to give you a plot here on where you're at in your time zone, if it's going to be coming in your region. This is when it's expected to come by my neck of the woods over the Midwest at roughly right around 10 till 4 in the morning, if it makes it there. And it's right around this time frame as it moves across the Pacific that they're expecting it to come down. So they don't know. Okay? They have no idea. They're just saying their best guess is the Pacific Ocean. So this is a heads up. You can check your area, see where it's going to be, if you're going to be close or flying right over top of you by chance. You never know unless you look. So I'll leave links as always. Until next time, it's been Dabu7. Eyes to the skies, guys.
This is One for the Record. I'm Diana, and today is February 15th, 2014. Here are your news updates for today. There is, according to Mary Greeley and Dabu7, there is an incoming Russian satellite that they don't know where it's going to impact, but it's coming in, it's incoming. So heads up and keep your eyes to the sky. Alrighty, they're thinking the Pacific Ocean. They're not sure. They don't know where it's going to impact, but within the next within 24 hours, sometime on Sunday. Alrighty, so heads up. Moving on. The Extinction Protocol 2012 and beyond. 4.1 magnitude earthquake rattles South Carolina and Georgia. Winter storm varies parts of Northeast. Death toll at 25. Moving on. E&E News, Energy News. U.S. Canada. Government test. Cattle feed at California dairy farm had 300 PCI kilograms of radioactive cesium after Fukushima. 9-month gap between when sample harvested and when received by lab. New UC Berkeley study reveals over 3,500 PCI per kilogram of cesium deposited on nearby roadside. Also, yesterday, Professor on PBS, consolidated mass of radioactive water moving in unison across Pacific to West Coast. Study, Fukushima nuclear material stays confined to a narrow band in ocean, very little dispersion. Moving on. E&E News, Energy News. Japan, Fukushima, today. Reports. Deformed containment vessel cover at Fukushima Reactor 3 center panel of concrete cover broken and sunken. Alrighty then. Not a lot of news. I'm attaching more news. So please be safe. Try to stay warm. And I'm going to attach a NutriMedical report from Thursday. It's the one I was able to get. Alright. Talk to you on the flip side. Stay tuned. Be safe. And help your neighbors. And check on people if you know they're by themselves. Check on them. Make sure they're okay. Alrighty then. And help them if you know. Alright. And no barbecues in the house. Alrighty then.
Welcome back to the NutriMedical Report, and joining us, our co-host in this hour is Tim Alexander, who often pops in on our open hours on Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, or if there's breaking news. Tim, you're a geopolitical and military analyst. This extreme weather, and we're going to have Robert Felix on Tuesday next week, is breaking all records. I just want to hit just a couple of the newsline headline titles on Drudge. Valentine's Day ruined, brutal winter intensifies. NWS, travel impossible, cars abandoned on snow-covered roads, watches and warnings radar, thousands without power, residents cook food in fireplaces, Philly snowfall shatters 130-year-old record, Roker hits de Blasio on weather remarks, pregnant woman killed by snowplow in Brooklyn, psychiatrist, tremendous amount of seasonal affective disorder. Yeah, I'm sure you have lots to mention about this and about other things. But we're in the grips of the start of an ice age, whether it's a Maunder-type mini ice age or a bigger one. There's no doubt, and we still have crime, and it should be through the International Court of Justice in The Hague, where someone does science fraud, they should be internationally charged with a form of science crime, and they need to go to prison for it. This needs to have some bite in it, and these scientists that have scientific capacity to measure Fukushima or to tell the truth about the weather modification or what's going on with the ice age, and they lie to us, they need to have consequences. This needs to have consequences. It should not be allowed that they can put the public in danger. It's like putting people on a plane and saying, well, we are flying to Fort Lauderdale, and everybody's in flip-flops and shorts, and they arrive in Alaska in the middle of winter. They're going to freeze to death on the tarmac before they even get their luggage.
Yeah, you know, there are multiple things going on. The sun is rather bizarre. It's we're in a cycle that is predictable for a mini ice age. But beyond that, 3.5 years ago, you and I, Dr. Zuccari in Italy, John Moore, we very clearly said that we were going to be facing a nightmare in terms of the weather in the near future, and that has happened and continues to happen. 2 summers ago you had Moscow 105, 107 degrees, broke every record in the book for 1,000 years. Right now in England you have incredible flooding, 100-mile-an-hour winds, just devastation. It's breaking all records, and they're flooding in the northeast, in the northwest, south of London, all over England. And I've been there after a really bad gale hit many years ago, and it was just unbelievable. Well, what we're seeing now is even worse. And when you take so much heat out of the thermohaline circulatory system in the Atlantic Ocean by killing the loop current, which is the current that makes a big loop in the Gulf of Mexico, and hasn't existed since the British petroleum oil disaster, because oil breaks up warm water currents in cooler bodies of water. When you and of course Obama allowed them to sink the oil using Corexit and other chemicals, which means most of it is still on the floor of the Gulf, and of course some of the sites are still leaking. Then what happens is that Gulf is a very warm Gulf, and that heat energy is normally supposed to be going across the ocean in the Gulf Stream. And while the Gulf Stream is still functioning, it's not transferring near as much heat, and that affects the entire planet. It affects, because that Gulf Stream acts as a steering mechanism on the atmospheric jet stream, and that affects the whole world. And a big part of what we're seeing in the United States is the jet stream, and also in the United Kingdom, acting very, very strange. And like I say, we're going into the fourth year now, 3.5 years of this, and these horrific things like the deliberate British petroleum oil disaster and the deliberate allowing of the use of Corexit have long-term consequences. And just because the globalist own news media ignores them doesn't mean that they aren't real. And if you don't believe they're not real, we'll go outside. 49 states right now have snow cover.
Well, there's a number of reasons why the weather's crazy. The first is the loss of the loop current, which is basically the pacemaker, according to Dr. Sangari and NOAA, as well as the Frascati Institute in Europe. The second reason is that we're going into an ice age, which occurs with the alignment of Jupiter and Saturn. That alignment occurs every 180 years, and every 360 years you get a Maunder-type ice age, which is related to it's titled back to what's called a Maunder minimum. The third reason is geoengineering. We're actually steering the climate around the world. There's no such thing as normal climate. Just like when the weather cleared in the Northeast so that they could actually have the Super Bowl. You know, they had super climate and they were doing things to modify it. The so-called polar vortex, what's happening is the north latitude jet stream usually is at 60 degrees north latitude, is now at 30 degrees. Usually it's 30 degrees, it's now at 60 degrees north latitude, which means it's basically down across the Midwest United States, pulling the jet stream down. And so when they talk about a polar vortex, and I heard the interview the other day with Robert Felix, and he agrees exactly with what I said, that we're having basically ice age weather. This is ice age weather, and as he said many years ago, they'll be fighting in the streets for food before you have an ice fall. So at the end of the last Younger Dryas period, 12,000 years ago, roughly 11,800, there was an ice fall on the North Missouri River that was 2,000 feet high. It all went from Olympia, Washington, down to the North Missouri River. And on the south side of the river is only 7 degrees cooler than it is now. What is going to happen is the worldwide food supplies are going to crash and burn this year. The globalists want to reduce the world population. They're sterilizing it by not doing anything to stop Fukushima. And by the way, there's a 500% increase in earthquakes, which means all the other reactors in Japan that are in danger almost lost control. When, not if, when the next superquake hits, which is going to increase dramatically because of the statistical 500% increase in earthquakes, we're going to have a massive radiation cloud released from there.